Fit and finish is one of the least talked about topics among hunting rifles, but it matters. And on the rare occasion someone actually does talk about fit and finish, well, generally they get it wrong. Or maybe I should put it another way, that they tend to focus on the one part of fit and finish that's the least important, and that's the looks of a rifle. Well, since we're about to really dive deep into these on fit and finish, or maybe I should say refinish, on this 1903 A3 and this FN Supreme, I thought this was just the perfect time to really talk about fit and finish. We're going to start with the fit because I got to get the fit right on these rifles before I even begin to think about the finish. And the fit, I think, is the most important part of a rifle, and at least talked about. But I want to throw this out there first. Every little detail on a rifle does not have to be perfect. It's a hunting rifle, and you can make anything work. For that matter, you don't even need a rifle to kill deer. I mean, you can go kill deer with a sharp-pointed stick. Ask a bow hunter. So having, the perfect fit and all that stuff, it's not necessary. But with that said, after you've shot enough rifles, you begin to recognize every once in a while you pick up a rifle that it just has a feel to it. I mean, it feels different. It feels like an extension of you. Well, those are the ones you generally tend to shoot the best also. Not always, but usually. And when you've got a rifle like that and you're out in the field and you're sitting in the stand, well, you know if a deer walks out, it's going home with you in the back of the truck. Because you know with that rifle, you're going to put that bullet exactly where it needs to go. Just, again, I can't describe the feel there. It just fits you. And you know it fits you, and you know you can shoot it. Well, that's the feel you're trying to put into a rifle when you set one up. When you're setting up a hunting rifle, that's what you're trying to do. And unfortunately, so many of us today, we focus on making sure things work. All right, well, we forget about the fit part. We're just focused on the functioning part. Putting a scope on a rifle. Everybody gets into these days, well, you need, Loctite or some kind of thread locker, and you need the torque wrench to make sure all your screws are torqued just perfect. And almost nobody talks about getting the height of a scope to where it's perfect for the rifle you're shooting. That's part of that fit function. All right, when you've got a scope that's just right and you lay your head on that comb, that's nice. That's a good feeling. And it makes a difference in how you shoot the rifle. You shoot it more consistently because you've got a more consistent cheek weld. The recoil's different because you've got more on the rifle. It's more a part of you. It matters. It isn't necessary, it isn't required, but it makes a difference. We'll look at the trends in scopes. Everybody wants bigger and bigger scopes, bigger and bigger objectives, 50 millimeter, objectives, and 30 millimeter tubes, and the scopes keep going up. You have to mount a scope like that higher. The bigger the objective, the higher you have to mount it to clear the barrel. Well, you're losing your cheek weld the whole time you're raising it up, so you're losing that feel. That's why I stick with 40 millimeter objectives. And again, that's required. But you add up all the different parts of fit and finish, and it makes a difference. Okay. With a rifle, and this is another interesting part of this, we know this bolt has to be just right. We know it has to be made just perfect so it fits inside this receiver, and the receiver has to be just perfect so that the bolt fits inside of it and all those pieces. Quality components in a rifle fitting together well. Okay, that's a big part of the whole fit and finish. all those pieces working together, fitting together. That's why they need to be made precisely, and that type thing, that hand fitting parts and so forth. Well, all those parts have to work together within a system. Well, you're part of that system. So they have to fit you too. Well, we can't go adjusting our arm length or any of that, but we can adjust the rifles, and they're made, there's many ways to adjust them to ensure that they do fit us. Okay, well, that's, that fit and finish. All right, so on these, we're fixing to tear into them, and we're going to touch on the parts that matter. So let's start with length of pull, distance from the trigger to the butt of the rifle. I'm lucky. My length of pull, 13 3/4. That's about perfect for me, and I know that from handling a lot of rifles over the years. But you can get a tape measure or yardstick or whatever, and you can measure from the bending your elbow to your trigger finger, and that's going to get you close to what your length of pull should be. And it doesn't have to be exactly that. There's room for variation there. It's just, in the case of these two rifles, even though I'm average, neither one of these fit me. This 1903 A3 is too short, and this FN's too long. And if we put them side by side with the butts on this bench, you can see the difference in the heights on these triggers. So I need to adjust both. All right. So even though I'm average, I still need to make some adjustments. And if you're, taller or shorter than average, well, then you're more likely to have to make adjustments. But this is something all of us run into. Okay, now let's talk about what matters. 1903 A3s, they're famous for the length of pull being too short, or the 1903 Springfields, I should say. They're famous for that. If you've ever seen target shooters hold a rifle with their thumb on the same side as their palm, okay, a lot of people think that's because it improves accuracy. You see target shooters do this, well, that's for accuracy. That came from people target shooting with 1903 Springfields. The reason they did this is because the length of pull was so short that if they wrapped their hand around it and shot, their thumb would actually hit their nose. So they did this to keep from, their thumb hitting their nose. The length of pull matters. Well, there's a reason many of your older military rifles, battle rifles, had such a short length of pull. When you're firing, trying to do rapid fire with a bolt action, the shorter your length of pull is, the further back the bolt is, the quicker you can operate the rifle. All right. If you go putting the bolt way out here, well, now you got to start reaching for it. Okay, so they had a reason for making length of pull short. I'm hunting. I'm not worried about, taking a fraction of a second longer to run that bolt while it's on my shoulder. So, I had the luxury of being able to run this out a little bit. And I do tend to keep my length of pull a little on the short side. I'd rather be a little too short than a little too long, just for that reason, because it is so much easier to run the bolt while the rifle's still on your shoulder. Okay, so in the case of this particular rifle, this was a military rifle. It's sporterized. Whoever sporterized it did an outstanding job. And they added this recoil pad. Okay, well, the recoil pad on here added an extra inch to the length of the rifle, so that helps. In my case, though, because I want a longer length of pull, I need to pull this off, and I need to check and see what size rifle, what size butt this is, what pad will fit. And I need to order a spacer. I need to get a 1-inch pad and whatever size as far as width. When you order recoil pads, you need to get the width right. And then I need to get a spacer to go with this. We're at about 13 1/8 now. I need a half-inch spacer. And a half-inch spacer here is going to get me just shy of 13 3/4, which is going to be about perfect for me. So let me get this off real quick and figure out what screw they have in here. I'm assuming it's a Phillips, but blind hole, you can't see the screw head, it's hard to say. It's a straight head, and it's a small one too. These recoil pads had some age on them. This was before the Phillips got popular, I guess. And that screw's looking a little rough. I thought it might be. This is a size chart for Pacmeyer recoil pads to help you determine what size to order for whatever particular rifle. And yeah, I really would appreciate it if they just gave me dimensions, but they didn't. Oh, we got some sawdust in there. Yeah, this is interesting. This particular rifle, this goes to the fit, and I've said several times that whoever sporterized this rifle, they knew what they were doing. Okay, they added a piece of wood to the top here to raise the comb of the rifle up. Well, if we look in the back here, we can see where they've actually got screws running through here. And I don't even know how they ran that screw in, but I guess they screwed it into this bottom piece of metal, drilled a hole. They've probably got another pin here. That's what it's acting like, it's a pin. And they probably epoxied it in place somehow, but yeah, they knew what they were doing. Raising the comb there, that's part of the fit. That's what I said about the scope earlier and getting your cheek weld. That's why they did this. The 1903 Springfields, they were never set up for scopes. They were set up for the 1903s. They had a front sight, but then for the 1903 A3s, one of the modifications they made was they put a rear peep sight on it. So these were made to look just over top of the barrel. You had a scope, you just raised everything up. Now your head's got to come up to look through the scope. They raised the comb of the rifle up, and that's why our modern rifles, our modern bolt actions especially, but our modern hunting rifles, that's why they look like they do. Okay, our rifles don't just look a certain way just because it's pretty. I mean, we can do things to them to make them pretty, like, you know, a nice piece of walnut or engravings, but the shape of the stock, that's part of the fit, and it affects felt recoil. The old 1903 Springfields, the stocks on most of those were straight at the bottom, okay, and the toe was lower. All right, well, that's going back to Kentucky long rifle days, and a lot of the rifles then were that way. The Winchesters, look at all of your old Winchester lever actions. Most of them have that straight stock right here. They don't have the pistol grip, and the toe of the rifle's really low, and the butt of the rifle, when you see those, you know, really curved half moon butts on a rifle, that's going back to Kentucky long rifle days. Those were not meant for high pressure smokeless powder cartridges. They hurt when you shoot them. So one of the evolutions of our modern sporting rifles was to raise the butt up, square it off, and then that helped with the recoil, plus to raise the comb up to help get a better cheek weld with the scope. Right, so whoever sporterized this knew what they were doing. Now, let's see what size we need here. The shape of this butt's almost backwards from a standard rifle. Yeah, we're going to need a large for this one. Okay. So a large recoil pad and a large 1-inch thick recoil pad and a 1/2-inch spacer. And we're going to be set on this one as far as length of pull. Now for the FN. Okay. Again, straight head screws. These are even smaller than on the A3. It's interesting. They filled this one with, they put matches in the butt of the rifle. I love old rifles. You never know what you're going to run into with them. I guess this was their survival matches. They got 3 packs, Winston matches. I've never even seen Winston matches. Still work. Right. This particular recoil pad that I pulled off the FN, it was measuring about 1 1/4 inches thick. So 1/4 of an inch thicker. The spacer's thicker on here. Plus it's heavy. Okay. My options on this one, as far as adjusting length of pull for me, I could cut the stock down, but I really don't want to unless I have to. As a matter of fact, let's see what we're measuring right now with no butt plate on here. We're 13.5. So if I add something around 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch, pretty close. And I know Pachmayr has a 400 thousandths thick recoil pad. If I put that on here, it's going to get me really close to my 13 3/4. Yeah, I think that's going to work. And then I won't have to cut the stock down any. And I really was hoping I wouldn't have to, because I just don't want to modify it any more than I have to. If you're a shorter person, you need a shorter rifle or a shorter length of pull, cut the stock down. Just, you know, if you have to, you have to. But with this, if I put the original butt plate on here, not recoil pad, but butt plate, I guarantee you I'd be 13 3/4 or just under. For me, I like a recoil pad. Where the recoil pad's nice is when you're shooting with just a t-shirt on. You tend to feel a butt plate, especially when it's made out of metal, and they tend to leave some bruises. Right. Just having soft rubber, it isn't, you know, this acts like a shock and absorbs, you know, the recoil. I'm sure it does to some extent, but just the fact that you have something to cushion the recoil, you don't have steel with absolutely no give in it up against your skin. And I'm guessing the way these work is when they do flatten, that it increases the surface area of these. And that's what lessens the recoil, having an increased surface area that the rifle's pushing against. The smaller the surface, the more recoil you're going to feel. So, yeah. We could get a short recoil pad, thin one, and that'll fix us up on this. Now let's see what size we need. We're going to need a large one for this one also. That's good though. The large means wider, and again, that's more surface area against your shoulder. That's going to help with recoil. So, balance. Okay, while we're here, let's talk about balance now, because balance is it's not often thought about, you know, part of the fit. When a rifle balances well, it feels well. It shoots well. It shoots better. Okay, for me, I like a rifle to balance right on that front action screw or really close to it. One thing I'd noticed on this FN, it was really heavy in the rear. Now there's a lot of walnut here. And I was actually thinking about drilling out some wood in here just to lighten this up to get the balance right. Well, they've already done that. I don't know if this was factory or whoever did whatever to it. So somebody else was already thinking the same thing. But since I pulled this recoil pad off and the extension that it had on it, that really lightened up the rear of this rifle. So now the balance point on it is really, really close to that front action screw. I don't need to do a thing to this one as far as balance. That's going to take care of it. And a really thin recoil pad. We're going to be good on here as far as balance and length of pull. So, hey, we're making progress. Now I just need to order up a couple of recoil pads, and we're going to talk about those in the finish part. I didn't mention the balance on this 1903A3 because the balance on it's already perfect. That's one of the things I noticed when I was shooting it at the range, just how well this rifle shot, how good it felt when I shot it. Well, that's where balance comes in. Okay, and every rifle's different when it comes to balance. And it doesn't have to be perfect. This is one of those nitpicking things that I just really like for a rifle to be balanced. And in the field hunting, okay, so many of the tactical rifles now, they have heavy barrels. And that's good. You can shoot some really small groups with heavy barrels. Those rifles were not made for you to shoulder the rifle and shoot like this. They were made to shoot off of a bipod or a bench or something supported. You don't want a really nose heavy rifle when you're holding it. You want something balanced right about here. And if you're going to get into precision target shooting, as far as from unsupported positions, standing, kneeling, prone, sitting. That's your standard shooting positions for target shooting. You're going to hold the rifle like this, not like this. Well, that just put the balance point right in the palm of your hand. That helps you in your shooting. That helps you in your accuracy. And the reason for this, the reason you shoot like this and standing is you want the bone in your arm to support the weight of the rifle, not muscles. Muscles get tired and muscles move. If you've got this bone right here, right in your hip, like so, all right, now you're not relying on muscle. You've got something solid there supporting the rifle. You're going to be more steady. You're going to shoot better. Well, that's good stuff to know when you're out hunting and you don't have a bench close by. So, balance matters. And something you have to be careful of with lightweight rifles. Usually the way they make a rifle lightweight is they make the barrel thinner, so featherweight barrels. They have a lot of taper to the barrel and they're real thin out here at the end. Well, that's what this FN is. That's why it has the different places in the barrel where they reduced the size. All right, they stepped it down from the receiver. They stepped it down right here. Then they stepped it down again right here. So we've got a thin barrel. And we've got a big heavy piece of walnut. You throw in that really solid recoil pad, 1/4 inch spacer, plus that weight from that recoil pad and spacer is way out here. So the further out you get, the more mechanical advantage it gives it, the more it's going to pull it off, the more it's going to affect the balance. So we just completely changed the balance of this rifle just by taking this off. Big difference. And when you are shooting from the bench, and A hunting rifle's made for the barrel to come up. Okay, I know a lot of the precision guys, you want it to come straight back. You want the rifle to recoil straight back and into position. You don't want the barrel to jump. You want your scope to stay on target. And that's some stuff I've been working on myself for lighter recoiling cartridges. Heavier recoiling cartridges, they're gonna jump. I mean, that's just part of it. The more off balance your rifle is, I believe personally, I hadn't verified this, but I'm pretty sure on this one. The more off balance your rifle is, the more it's gonna jump when you're at the bench. So I think that's where we're getting that balance, on that front action screw. I think that's where that really comes in. It just keeps everything smoother, keeps the muzzle from jumping as much. Because now, with a balance like this, you've got some weight out here to keep it from jumping. It's going to want to do this if you're real heavy on the back end. On the opposite extreme, a lot of rifles now, synthetic stocks. Okay, so everything I'm doing here as far as adjusting this, you can adjust with the synthetic stocks also. You can change thickness of recoil pads, add spacers. If need be, you can cut them down. You've got options. And so this isn't just wood rifles, this is all rifles. And this is one of the big differences between tactical stuff now versus hunting. The tactical stuff for fit, they've got adjustments everywhere on them. They're made to be adjustable. They got adjustable cheek pieces that you can raise or lower and all kinds of adjustments. And that's great because you can dial it in as far as so that, it fits well. Well, a hunting rifle's not made to be easily adjusted. They're made to be adjusted. You can change these things out and adjust them. They're just not made to easily be adjustable. Well, that makes this more dependable. You don't have to, because when you attach that new butt pad or old butt pad to it, that's kind of, it's not permanent, but it ain't going anywhere. You're not just loosening a little, wing nut or something and adjusting something. So when you put something on a hunting rifle, it's not easily adjustable, but it doesn't move after you get it right. So you don't have to worry about things falling off and screws coming loose when you're in the field hunting. That's an advantage. Magazines. Everybody now wants a detachable magazine on their, whatever rifle for hunting, because that's what the tactical guys are doing. Well, that's just something else to forget when you go hunting. Oops, I forgot my magazine. When you've got an internal magazine, you're never losing your magazine, and it's always there. So, just something to think about, that's all. And it's just, funny how we look at things and think. And anyway, I wanted to throw that out. And the last thing that we need to look at on these as far as fit, this A3, this was a military stock. I want to trim some things down on this so that it fits me better as far as the pistol grip and the forend. Okay, the military rifles were made like they were for a reason. For instance, what I said about the, cycling the bolt. Short length of pull, that really helps with that. Well, hunters, they sporterized military rifles for a reason. And we're going to do a whole video just on sporterized rifles. I know that's a contentious subject with collectors. And I understand it. But hunters, they did what they did to the rifles for a reason. They modified them to get the fit right for what they're doing. This pistol grip and this part of the stock, this is the weakest part of a rifle right here, the wood. Is in the pistol grip. That's the thinnest. This was a military stock. This was back when they put bayonets on the end of them, and they used those bayonets in battle. This 5-shot magazine, all right, when you ran out of bullets, you might be using this as a club, literally. They wanted these tough. They couldn't have this just breaking. because you happen to have hit some people with it. We don't have that problem hunting, thankfully. I mean, and we are fortunate. I'm laughing at that, making light of it, but that is serious stuff. Okay, but as a hunter, I don't have to worry about, you know, me beating things with this. So I can make this smaller, I can make it thinner, I can make it a better, more comfortable fit. And that's something we're going to work on as I move into the finish part. Okay, shape of the pistol grip and all that. I'm fixing to start on that now with this A3. No need, y'all see me punish myself trying to do some detailed work on this. So I think that about covered it for the fit part of it. And next video, we're going to go over the finish, because by then I should have all that taken care of. And we're going to be ready to refinish these rifles then. And the finish does matter. It's not just looks, because the finish protects the wood. And hey, we want it to look good too. All right, check us out on Facebook. I still don't know what I'm doing there. I feel like I ought to be posting something on it. But thank you for those of you that have joined the Tom River Simple Living group. And I think that covered it for this. So God bless and have a good day.